Hey guys, it's Sarah, and today I'm going to be telling you all the books that I read in October, and I ended up reading 7 books. So that's not too bad. I did have a readathon in there that helped definitely for a week, and other than that, I'd read some longer books that took me a little bit longer to get through, but overall I really enjoyed everything I read this month. So here's what I read. The first book that I finished in October is one that I did a buddy read with Melly, and we both have been wanting to read this book, and it was on my top 8 that I want to read in 2018. So I was very happy to get to it, and that is Winter Garden by Kristen Hanna. This is my 3rd Kristen Hanna book now that I have read, and I absolutely loved this. This is a historical fiction, and it follows a family who is dealing with the death of the father of the family. And so it's a father and mother, and then they have 2 grown children, girls. And one of them lives right next door basically, and she runs their apple orchard, which is their business that they have. The other daughter is an award-winning photographer, so she is constantly on the go, and she travels and goes to dangerous places and takes pictures of things that are happening. So she's not around very much. So this book follows the death of the father and how it brings the mother and the daughters together because they have a very strained relationship with their mother, and one of their father's dying wishes was for them to connect and for the girls to know their mother's actual story from when she was growing up, which kind of made her the way that she is today. And the way that things are told is almost like a fairy tale. So she had kind of grown up telling a little fairy tale, but it ended up being like something much more significant than that. And it was really, really cool the way that it all came together. And I was trying to piece together things and see what was real and what wasn't and all that. So this is actually kind of a dual timeline historical fiction type thing, but the things that happen in here are so incredibly heartbreaking. And I kind of spent most of this book thinking it was going to be a 4-star, but the ending I absolutely loved, and that pushed it up to a 5-star for me. And again, the writing is beautiful because it's Kristen Hanna. She's a fantastic writer, and I absolutely loved it, and I gave it 5 stars. And then I read An Ember in the Ashes, which I still cannot shut up about. I know what you're thinking. Sarah, you have the hard copy. Why are you holding up a paperback? Because I bought these in paperback. Because I like the paperbacks better. I like the covers better than the hardcovers, and they did a full cover change on book 3. So even if I got book 3 in a hardcover, it would be this type. So I wanted all my things to match. So I'm collecting these in the paperbacks now, and I am actually unhauling my first 2 and giving them to somebody. So, but I did read this and absolutely loved it. This thing is nonstop action from beginning to end. It really, truly is. I was really surprised that we just, from the first chapter, was just action, and it really didn't stop. And I cared a lot about all these characters, and I understood some of the decisions they were making, even if they weren't the best decisions or I didn't agree with them, I still understood why they were making them. And the bravery of our main character, Leia, in here is really, really admirable. It just is doing whatever it takes to save her brother who's been jailed. And she ends up posing as a spy and going into the military school where all these really deadly soldiers are trained. And the things that happen are insane and unfair and just, yeah, I can't say enough about it. It was so fantastic, and I cannot wait to get to the next book. And I absolutely loved it. It was brilliant. And then I picked up some books for the Spookathon readathon that I did. And the first one I picked up was The Uninvited. This is by Kat Winters, and I listened to this on audiobook. And this one is actually a historical fiction as well. And it follows a man and a woman in the early 1900s. And the man is German, the woman is American. And you see them come together and form a bond, even though at that time, America and Germany were enemies, so it was very frowned upon. And I talk much more about this in my wrap up for the Spookathon, so I'll leave that down below if you guys are interested. But I didn't love this one, and I gave it a 3 stars. I just didn't like the way that some of the characters handled situations, but there was a good twist that I didn't see coming that pushed it up to a 3-star for me. So that's what it ended up being. And then I picked up Whistling Past the Graveyard, and this is written by Susan Crandall, and this one I really enjoyed. It was really good. This follows a young girl who is, I think she's 10 or 11, and she ends up running away from home because she wants to go find her mother, who she believes is living in Nashville to be a famous singer. So she runs away from home where she's living with her grandmother and believes that she's going to get to Nashville on her own, no problem. She ends up hitchhiking and is picked up by a Black woman who has a white baby in her car. And she, Starla is very, very confused about this and what's going on. And so she takes Starla to her house, and things happen from there, basically. And there is a really, really good narrative about race, and that it doesn't matter what color you are, and that shouldn't matter. But this is also set in a very prominent time before our country was fully segregated. So it, yeah, lots of big issues about that. And it was told really, really well. I really enjoyed it. And the characters were fantastic, and I gave it 4 stars. The next one I picked up is The 13th Tale by Diane Setterfield. And this one was actually, I don't want to say disappointing, but I didn't give it 5 stars, and I thought I was going to. I went into this thinking it was going to be a 5-star read, but it was only a 4-star. And I think the reason for that is because it took some twists that I wasn't expecting. While that's not necessarily a bad thing, I didn't necessarily like the twists either. So this follows a woman who is a bookstore owner, and she is also kind of an amateur biographist. Is that a word? Biographist? She writes biographies. And she ends up getting a letter from a very, very famous writer, and she is requesting that she writes her biography for her. She's willing to tell her life story, and she wants this woman to write it. Now, this author is also very infamous for lying to people when she's asked about her past or things that happened. It's always a different story. So there's a lot of non-trust, going into this project, and a lot of questions on whether things are true. And so our main character goes, and she's interviewing her and, writing everything down. She's staying at her house while this is happening. And eventually things start happening around the house that are a little bit weird. And there is some sort of connection and similarities between the author and the writer. And I don't know, I guess I just didn't fully buy it. For some reason, it seemed a little bit out of place, and I didn't like that aspect of the story, basically. I would have rather it just been, her telling the story and her writing it down and, things like that. But it was more than that. And for some reason, I didn't want more than that. I don't know what it is. It's so strange, but I did give it 4 stars. The writing in here is beautiful. Diane has a wonderful way of telling a story. So I will definitely be picking up more from this author for sure. This one just kind of maybe caught me off guard a little bit, and it may be one that I revisit one day. I may, go back to it at some point and give it another try and see if maybe I would enjoy it a little bit more, but I still gave it 4 stars. So it was still good. And then I finished up my birthday reading project by reading One More Day by Kelly Simmons. And this one follows a woman, and she's married and had recently had her child kidnapped straight from her car when she stepped away for 2 seconds. And it's kind of following that and the aftermath, and, kind of her always praying that she could have one more day with her son, one more day, one more day. She gets that one more day. He shows up back in his crib like nothing happened, like he's there and it's him and he's solid and she's holding him. And then the next morning he's gone again. So it's very much, why did I get this one more day? What is happening? All these things. There's a lot of weird things happening around not only that, but other things that she's encountering too. And it's a lot of her just trying to figure out what in the world's going on. Is she crazy? Is she imagining all these things? And this one was really good. I really, really liked it a lot. I wasn't expecting to because it doesn't have the best Goodreads ratings, but I gave it a 4 stars. And I thought it was really interesting and very unique, and I really just enjoyed it. So I'm happy about that. And then I finished out my month with an audiobook, and I buddy read this book with my friend Jenny, and we read Pet Sematary by Stephen King, and I listened to it. And I highly, highly recommend that you listen to it because it is read by Michael C. Hall. He does a fantastic job. I can't even get into what a great job he did because I would be here forever. But it was really, really great. And this book was creepy. It definitely was. It took a little while to get to the really super creepy things, but man, once that hit, it was just like nonstop. And me and Jenny both like hit that point, and we ended up finishing it almost right away because we didn't want to put it down. But this follows a man who is moved to a very secluded, I guess you could say, area in Maine, and it's for his job. He is actually a doctor, and he's working at a university hospital or like a clinic type thing. And he lives kind of out in the middle of nowhere. He does have a neighbor across the street, but they live on a very kind of busy highway where trucks are a big thing, where, you know, the trucks will come through, the big like 18-wheeler trucks, and they will kind of fly past their house and, you know, kind of on a curve, and you don't see them coming until it could be too late. So they have to be very careful on their street. Now, this man is married and has 2 kids, and they also have a cat, and they end up discovering this cemetery that is for pets. And there's a whole story behind how the cemetery got started, and it's a little creepy. But he is warned by his neighbor that, you know, not to go there and just not to test things because bad things have happened. And eventually you end up getting the whole story on that. And then just some tragic things happen. I don't want to give too much away because I did not know anything about this book when I went into it, surprisingly, because this is an old book. It was written in the 80s, I think, but I'd never heard of it, or I'd heard of it, but I'd never heard anybody talking about it or what the premise is. So I'm really glad I went into this pretty blind. I think it helped me enjoy it that much more. And I really, really liked it. It was very creepy. I really liked what happened at the end, even though like not that, oh, that was a great ending. It was a good ending, but it was like just the last sentence of the book, I went, ugh. Like up into the last sentence, I was doing that. And I was shocked about what was happening. And yeah, just very good. Very, very good. If you haven't read it, I highly recommend it. It is a horror book. So, you know, there's some bloody things that happen and some very violent things that happen. But oh my gosh, it was really, really good. And yeah, so definitely highly recommend it. It was a 5-star read for me. They're coming out with a reboot movie in 2019, and I think they're probably already filming it, but John Lithgow is going to be in it. He plays a neighbor across the street, and I am actually pretty excited to see that. Actually, they might have filmed it already. There's a preview. So actually, I'll leave the preview link down below because I saw a preview on YouTube not too long ago. So I'm probably going to actually see that movie, even though I don't usually like horror movies, but yeah, I think I'm going to watch that one. Okay, guys, that is it. That are all the books that I read in the month of October. Let me know down below if you guys have read any of those. Let me know what you read in October. What was your favorite? Did you have any disappointments? All of that fun information. And I will be back tomorrow with my plans for November. All right, hope you guys have a great day.